Welcome to Healthy Conversations, sharing the knowledge, experience, stories, and the wisdom of herbalists and other natural healers, with your host, Stephen Horn. Today's guest, Winifred Adams. Hi, welcome to Healthy Conversations, and I have again with me Winifred Adams, a musician, a natural healer, medical intuitive, a woman of many talents, and also does jewelry. And so, Winifred, since you're a musician, I thought we might want to talk a little bit about something that I'm really interested in. I really think music can have a healing effect on people. So I thought maybe we'd discuss that a little bit, since you actually compose and sing and have recorded music. So
yes, thank you.
What are your thoughts on an experience with using music and sound as healing?
Well, first of all, I think that any musician, any singer-songwriter, anybody making music makes music to heal themselves. That's the first thing. I think every single person does that for some cathartic effect, and music heals the soul, they say. But we know now that frequency is so vital, and of course the yogis knew that back when. And the yogis in India had entirely different additional scales and chord progressions than we use here in the West. And that was extremely healing over thousands of years to them, which is why the yoga that like Yogananda was part of and some of the ancient cultures had particular rhythms to help them go back into a state of stillness and quietude. But in modern music, let's say when I started out doing things, I was near Boulder, Colorado, and I was just over the moon to go to the Unity Church there and get to watch new age pianists play, like Peter Cater at the Day or Robert Gass, and it was just amazing to me. And that's when I got into sound tuning bowls as music, because the frequency would resonate so much that it changed the frequency of the crystalline structure in the body. And then the tones, I've used the tones both in healing, whether it's through tuning forks and or creating music, literally to help sort of rebalance a brain. I would even, there was even one guy, he was in UCLA and he had a brain injury, and I sang to him to bring him back out of his coma. I would sing to him and hold tone to sing to him to spark the neurons in his brain as I was working on him. And I would keep singing and keep singing and keep singing and holding a particular frequency. So I think we have enough data now to show and prove that, in fact, there's a fella, even Daniel Levin, I think his name is. He wrote a beautiful book about the hidden chord. This is so ripe right now as a topic because it changes us instantly. It's amazing.
Yeah. Shift your phone just a little bit. You are a bit more. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. Okay, so if we go back and we look at like Native American healers, for example, they would be sitting there beating on the drum, chanting over the person, and in our society we think that's kind of weird. I think, right? Like how could that possibly have an effect on somebody? But there's a vibrational aspect of health, because we tend to think of everything in just terms of like in modern science of biochemistry, drugs and nutrients and that sort of thing. But I think there's definitely an energetic component of the body that you're tuning up with music. Yeah. So anyway.
Or releasing. So it's, how you always talk about herbs actually pulling tissue together or releasing tissue. It's the same thing with a tone or a chord. And if you have the right one for the right situation or malady or congestion, then suddenly that congestion begins to loosen up. And obviously, I believe the word of God is the frequency, the tone that resonates through us. And then the word of God is the harmony, the stasis within us. But when we are dissonant, now suddenly we can bring that harmony back by just hearing music and aligning that back to the frequency of the all that is, the source energy, the word.
Yeah, well, there's this idea in a lot of cultures. I mean, the Bible talks about God speaking the universe into existence, but in a lot of cultures, he sang the universe into existence.
Yes.
And my first herb teacher, Edward Milo Millett, had this kind of spiritual experience in which he saw that there was an energy that came forth from the Creator that set all things in motion, and that everything was like a dance. And he said that the DNA were like tuning forks that created this sequence of frequencies that would attract elements to start moving and joining the. I've never forgotten that. And it's left a big impact on me. So, do you
I
have
think
any
it's,
experience with using music to help people that you've worked with?
well, yes, like for example, the fella in the ICU, he actually came around and his brain was intact. When I visited him and was singing to him, his brain casing was off and his brain was exposed. And then fast forward, it was intact. But yes, I use music all the time actually. And the tuning bowls are one of the ways in which I do it. And one of the most cathartic things I've found for people without getting into the depth of their issue is to have them sing their name over the tuning bowl that's really resonating. And they choose a sound that, again, just like the Stones, they choose a sound that feels good for them. So you could play a C, you could play a D, you could play an F bowl, and they say, oh, I like that one, whatever it is. Okay, so then they come and they sit and they sing their name over the bowl, and most people don't like to sing their name. They're not eager to sing out their name. They feel weird. They feel it's strange in our culture. But once they do, their body comes up where they could only do a squeak in the beginning. Suddenly, this resonant, bold sound comes out of this being, and they're emanating a sound out like they did a big fountain. And it's brilliant. It's a huge release for people in just a matter of minutes.
Yeah, I had an interesting voice and diction teacher my first year in college. It was her last year of teaching. She was an older lady. And one of the things she had us do is to find what she called our optimum pitch. And so she
Yes.
actually had us do these ohms, om, and we were supposed to play with it until we hit a tone in which our voice just resonated through our entire head. And we were to hold that tone. And then from going from the whatever tone that was, the how now brown cow. Anyway, I found that when I hit that pitch, there was a certain pitch, I could talk for hours and my voice didn't strain at all. So there,
And you
I
do
think,
talk with a lot of the lectures you've done and things. So yes, absolutely, that would be really beneficial.
and I've always thought that probably is true for a singer, being able to tune their vocal cords to their optimal pitch too. So I think we all have a certain frequency that we resonate with. That's our
Natural.
natural tone.
Well, it's really funny. When I started out, I had gone from Denver about the time I started studying with you, actually, and I've gone from Denver to Fresno, California. And it was kind of in the beginning before all this was really well known, all these things, whether it was natural healing or music for healing or anything. And at that time, I was just really bent on the tuning bowls, and I would take them to churches and play them and sing. I would do presentations anywhere I could to do this because I felt so strongly about it. And what I found is I took it to a group of meditators, and they were a little sheepish about singing and putting out a sound. So I said, just do whatever comes to you. And it sounded like really ill dogs at first. It was just really, it was like a whole group of people that were really like, whoa. And then you heard it as they kept going. And eventually, by the time they were done, the discovery of the ahas, because they naturally tuned into harmony, all of them. It was so beautiful. I'll never forget it.
A similar experience where I went to this retreat, and this lady had a whole bunch of instruments. Most of them were percussion, but she had a gong and some Tibetan bell bowls and stuff like that. But a lot of it was percussion, and everybody picked something and started playing on it. and she was just kind of setting out a basic beat on a drum. And at first it was, like you said, kind of random, but in a very short time it all started to just, like, it was flowing, like you were all kind of and synchronized, and the pace would change and vary, and everybody would kind of keep like a flock of birds, like
Yes.
flying in unison. So there is something really interesting about our ability to kind of connect and come into harmony.
It was, yeah, it's amazing. Even kids in a children's hospital that all had cancer. I had these tuning bowls there, and of course, the administrators were all cross-armed and thinking, giving me the hairy eyeball when I came in because this is weird. And what are we doing with these kids? They just had surgery. They came all the way over to the bowls, and they just clamored around the bowls, and they wanted to get in and over the bowls, and they all chose the bowl that had to do with a corresponding organ that they just had surgery on, but nobody knew that.
Whoa.
I had to ask them, what did you have surgery on? And they would tell me where. And they were around the bowl that was geared in that note and that tone for their body system in that area.
Well, even when we think of human beings and so forth, we talk about experiencing discord in relationships or harmony in relationships, right? And discord feels uncomfortable for all of us, the conflict and discord. But when things come into harmony, there's this flow, and I think that's what health is. It's an internal harmonious state of things working together, and disease is some kind of discord.
And so it's so natural.
Yeah. One other thing, when I used to do emotional healing workshops, and I talk about the different emotional energy centers in the body and the different emotions are involved, I had actually started to collect music that, music that was angry, music that was sad, music that was funny, music that would hit different emotions. And I would play it in order to try to get people in tune with that particular emotional energy in their body. And it was kind of fun. I really started to understand how music can help us, because one of the things I found is that we all also want empathy. We want to feel like we're not alone in our suffering. We're not alone in our problems. And so when we hear music, and a lot of musicians are speaking about their own problems, and we resonate, we identify, oh, someone else.
Yes, they draw us into that we can relate to that. Yes.
Yeah, they've experienced the same thing I'm experiencing. I'm not alone in this. We're in this together as human beings.
Whether it's a sad song or a happy song or a minor chord or a major chord, it all speaks to the human experience on some level, and we can all identify with that some way or another, because I've seen so much instantaneous reaction to experiences of singing out, of performing to groups of people. You could even just sing a cappella. And when people are willing to receive and meet you there, it's like, again, that room where everything begins to blend into harmony, whether it's sad or happy, it doesn't matter. People kind of come into that space of communion together in a feeling, and then they let it go. And another thing I found, which is really interesting, this is kind of an odd note, but when you have a resolve to a song, there's actually an ending to the song. It doesn't just trail on forever.
Yeah.
There seems to be a completion for people as well. I've noticed that. And that seems to do better for them in their physicality or emotional balance, instead of songs that say just never have an ending and continue to trail on. When there's that final resolve and the song ends, people tend to do better when they sing that song again and again, and there's an ending to it. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, one thing I always liked about you as a singer is you can actually understand the words you're singing.
Well, thank you. Considering I write them, I'm glad.
Well, I'm very much, my dad was a poet. I like poetry and so forth. So lyrics are something I really enjoy, not just the music, but the lyrics. And so many modern songs, I have to actually go look up online, read the lyrics because I cannot understand what they're singing.
It's true. It is true. Yeah, you do have to kind of get that, and I appreciate that because I start out with lyrics, not melody, and it's a story first, and the melody comes after.
Yeah, the
So,
melody carries the emotion of the story and really drives it home.
but
Well,
I
Winifred, you have any parting comments about music and healing?
well, thank you. I had a great voice coach in Denver, and he always taught me. He always taught me to enunciate, to over enunciate everything. And if you really do listen to some of the more trained singers, like even either super pop singers who have super training coaches or opera singers, they do have a particular kind of enunciation in vowel tones and other things. And that training, I think, would be good for anybody because I really found in doing that, it also helps you to breathe better. You begin to listen more. You have a whole system and effect in your body. And I think it's actually kind of my 2 cents for everybody out there. Go get some vocal training.
Well, for me, it wasn't singing training, but I had voice and diction, and we had to practice making all of our words and sounds very crisp, right? So that everything was very easily understood. And I've always appreciated that training. And I don't think they do enough of that anymore.
No, it's helpful. It's true. It's because my mother always said to me, "You always mumble. You're always mumbling." And I'm thinking, "I'm not mumbling." But maybe she was right. And by the time I got to the coach, he said, "Open your mouth." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You don't open your mouth." And he's right. I don't generally unless I'm really belting something out. I tend to do this. So, it's good. We learn about ourselves and that's how we grow too.
Well, thank you, Winifred. And if you'd like to get in touch with Winifred and learn more about her and what she does as a natural healer and also as a musician and a jewelry maker, her many talents, I'll be putting links in the video below. So, again, thanks for joining me today, Winifred. Really appreciate having you. It's always great to have a chance to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Bye everybody. Thank you so much.
And your signature line,
Go Jolly.
Go Jolly. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to catch future episodes of Healthy Conversations. Help us educate others by sharing this video, and please feel free to share your own thoughts, comments, and questions below. To learn more, check out the links below.